Hello everybody, my internet name is Indigo, and today I'll be talking about the Last World trilogy by Piers Torday, consisting of The Last World, The Dark World and The World Beyond. Yes, this video will be about books, not video games. While they're not my favourite books in the world, I still think that the Last World trilogy is worth talking about. The reviews plastered all over the paperbacks are calling the series the next big thing, but it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Let's get the elephant out of the room here. This story has an environmental moral, but unlike certain other books, it doesn't essentially boil down to humans suck and they should feel bad. The second book even focuses on the animals being in the wrong without spoiling too much. The Last World is set in a world which is entirely uninhabitable apart from one island which is ruled by a company called Factorium. A few years before the story began, most of the animals were killed by a virus called the Red Eye. It tells the story of Kester, a mute boy who has spent the last 6 years of his life in Spectrum Hall, a school for troubled children, ever since his mother died. One day, Kester is rescued from the school by a group of cockroaches and pigeons and discovers that he can talk to animals. They take him to the Ring of Trees, where the last animals live, where a stag tells Kester that they must travel to the city of Premium to find a cure for the Red Eye. The trilogy is written in first person and present tense, but in such a way that it doesn't feel like I'm reading a glorified screenplay. I've got to give props to Piers Torday for being able to pull that off. Writing in present tense is actually very hard to do. Kester's narration gives the readers the impression that he is uncertain about his journey, but still determined. Now, let's talk about the characters. Well, there's an awful lot of one-note supporting characters. The main characters are a lot more interesting. The wolf cub is initially distrustful of Kester because he's a human, but learns to respect him more. The stag is a wise guardian to Kester and they leave it to the animals, and we actually get to learn his backstory. Perhaps the most interesting character is Polly Goodacre, a girl who joins Kester to escape from a colour. She's an expert on survival and is the one who interacts with most of the human characters. Unfortunately, The Last World takes a while to get going, so most of the characters are uninteresting in the first book. Besides the slow start, there are a few other minor things that bother me. The animals all have their own terms for common objects, and unlike in Aaron Hunter's books, these aren't just for man-made things. For example, they call trees tall homes, but the place where the last animals live is still called the Ring of Trees. I honestly find these animalisms cheesy, and that's not the only example of the writing being inconsistent with using them. There's also the fact that most of the animal characters don't have names, which makes referring to them awkward. My biggest issue, though, is how Kester is a chosen one. The animals have this prophecy thing called the dream, which conveniently lists everything Kester is going to do, but they won't tell him it. I honestly dislike the concept of chosen ones because it often feels like a substitute for actual motivation and makes it seem like the protagonist is the only competent person in the world. Despite its faults, however, I would still recommend checking out the Last World trilogy. I think it would be great for classroom discussions on environmental issues. All 3 books are available on the Kindle store right now, while physical copies aren't too hard to find. I'll always be happy to talk about this series in the comments.